As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. It's just one of those things where I thought Apex changed the game, right? Where you had to pay a zillion influencers on launch day, and just everyone decided that was going to be the industry standard.
Apex did change the game because remember, Apex had a very clever launch strategy. They did no pre-hype. So they had to pay people because they didn't have the guaranteed. So I still think the Apex launch model is a great launch model, and many publishers should consider doing it. It just has a different toolkit. And in that case, it does require paid streamers because you're launching out of a vacuum.
Can I throw a wrench in here for you guys to consider and contrast? What about Valorant with the stream keys? I mean, that launch was brilliant, I thought, right? Like, I mean, I'm curious, William's take, Paul's take. You know, this is it's very different than these two ones that we're talking about right now, right? One of them seems to be purely organic, a lot of hype. Other one, paid hype influencers. Valorant was like, hey, you can play, but you have to watch someone else play for like 6 hours.
Bluntly, I think Valorant is the best. I mean, I'm sorry. I think Riot Games does, very clever marketing often. And I think that model is good for so many reasons, right down to load balancing, right? Right, like down to anticipation, right down to consumer psychology. It's requiring an investment on your part. I mean, if I could pick any of them, I'd pick the Valorant. I also think the Valorant model is the hardest to execute. And it only works if you're a company who has the scale and reach to drive that sort of streaming audience. Because if it were, Indie Dev 5000 with that business, it's really one of those examples where, only giants can battle here, right? Like, but I agree. I think that's my favorite. I'd like to see more publishers play that.
Do you think maybe
I hate the drop model.
Amazon may have blown the Crucible launch just so they could build hype for the New World launch?
That's it. Yeah. Build a game.
That's what I was originally going to say for a while, was that they probably didn't pay anyone just out of the risk that because Crucible did so poorly, why pay a bunch of streamers to have them stream it and then just have them sit on a stream and totally complain about how terrible it is.
But they knew this game was going to be good, right?
Yeah,
they knew.
Still just risk aversion. And the other thing is that I was going to say to William's point is there's a lot more kind of competition in a much different audience in the shooter space. So for a drop like Valorant, it's going to be much different. People in the MMO space, first of all, it's a much tighter competition. There's basically 2 other games that streamers are playing, not 50. So they don't have to do as much of the paid streaming just because a new MMO is exciting all on its own. And the genre is so tight and the fans are really dedicated. I don't necessarily think Call of Duty fans are dedicated to every drop of every new shooter game in the same way. So Valorant had to take a different strategy just because it's a different game. And I think that strategy was really successful, but I think it was smart of Amazon to kind of minimize the risk of, for whatever reason, a very poor drop, like who knows, and not pay anyone, especially since they already knew that people would be playing it anyway. What's the point?
I'll just give my 2 cents on this. I hated the Valorant key drop thing. I hate all Twitch drop things. I just think it's such an artificial, like, bogus way of generating views. I don't think it actually creates genuine interest. Like, I know myself, I get all these drops, every single one of them. You know how I get it? That machine back there has that Twitch stream, open and minimized. Like, it's the equivalent of a YouTube pre-roll ad, right? They like to tell the advertiser, 50 million people saw your ad. Yeah, 50 million people press skip the second they could. That's the equivalent of Twitch drops. And I think these drop mechanics go away because eventually advertisers get savvy and realize the numbers are fake. The numbers are not real. fundamentally.
You don't like being I disagree, but that's a separate conversation to have. I think the drop stuff is really smart because I think you're focused on an unintended consequence of drops, which is people farm them, right? And that's definitely true that the numbers are inflated because people are tuning in just so they can get the 6-hour drop and move on, right? I think there is a genuine let me like put the piece of the pie here out there. There's people who have no interest in the game who are really the people who farm the drops, right? There's people who are going to play it anyway, for whom this is maybe a barrier, but it's fine because they're hyped for the game anyway. And then there's people on the fence in the middle. And I think for those people, for that liminal group, the drop strategy is extremely effective because they are interested. They will watch, it will pique interest, and they will be given a digital item that they will value because they've invested time to transition them into the game.
Yeah, for me, the numbers are what bother me. It's, you take a guy like Shroud, he gets maybe 25,000 viewers, on an average stream. If I'm an advertiser paying to advertise on Shroud's stream, and all of a sudden he has New World drops and 160,000 people show up, and now I'm paying for 160,000 eyeballs for that stream, I don't think I'm getting my money's worth. Frankly, I think I'm getting swindled.
That's a fair point. That the individual streamers, it's very artificial boosting for them. That's fair.
But then you could argue Twitch is artificially boosting across the whole platform and basically lying to advertisers, right? It's fake. It's not organic viewership. It's not viewership that you can guarantee in any way is engaged. Most people, I think, are there just for the drop, and that becomes the problem. Let's move on, guys. There's a whole bunch of other things here. One, he says $1 million to Ninja was just sensational, I think. True, it made good press, and we're still talking about it. And Six Cannon says, maybe on day one, people were watching the streams for as long enough to unlock at least a few drops. The queue to get into the more popular servers was 8 hours long. Yeah. And I guess getting the drop was one nice thing of waiting. One, he says, well, I tuned into some Just Talk female streamers to get the free Chipotle burrito, but now I'm following her. Well, so I guess, there is an argument there.
It works.
There's definitely an argument there. We'll see how long that lasts if there's no more free burritos on that channel.